What's up,
Hi,
man?
man. How you doing?
What's up? What's up? What's up? Good.
All right. Now we're live here.
What's up?
Yeah. How you doing?
Good. It was easy to figure out the features.
Yeah, it was easy. It wasn't so hard. First time doing this, so yeah.
What's up, man? Good
Yeah,
to
all
see you.
good here. Yeah. Let's get started then.
Cool. Let's do
So
it.
this is the first session of doing the Meet the People's Trainer interview. So each week we're gonna start to interview a new people's trainer to get to know the person and get to know how they work in the fitness world and how they think about training and how they what's their philosophy behind the training. And today we're gonna get to know a little bit more about Shawn. So that's
Yeah.
why you can see his face here. So yeah, Shawn, tell me about yourself. What's your story?
So like in general or in life or like with fitness?
Let's
Where
start
you want me to
with
start?
fitness. With fitness, yeah.
So with fitness, I've always been into being athletic and running around and playing in the park and things like that since I was a kid. And I was always into sports, but I was never like a big like an athlete or like a jock kind of person. I was more just into running around outside and playing different things. And I played a lot of basketball as a kid. That was very popular for a lot of kids growing up in the 80s and 90s in New York City. So I played a lot of basketball. And then in high school, I got introduced to kind of more traditional weight training. So I did that throughout high school, and I really was attracted to it. And then also during high school, I started being able to do some more martial arts, which is something that I grew up loving, watching kung fu movies and stuff like that. So in high school, I was able to do some martial arts, some weight training, um, and then finally when I was when after I went to the university, I went to college, and then I came back to the city. Um, I was doing odd end jobs here and there, just trying to figure out where to make money, and then and I was also going through some depression at the time, depression because I didn't know what career I was gonna do and struggling financially and all these things. So I started getting back to exercise after not exercising for a few years, and found my love for it again. And I was running, and I was doing a lot of calisthenics and martial arts training on my own. And yeah, and I was introduced to one of the guys in my workout park, was a personal trainer, and he asked me if I did personal training. I said no, and he said, "Well, you look like you know what you're doing. You should probably see if it's something you'd be interested in doing." And so a week or two later, I applied to my local gym, and then the rest is history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you have been through a lot then when it comes to training.
Yeah, and that was back when I was. I mean, I'm 34 now, and I started my fitness career kind of around age of 20 or 21. I entered into health and fitness, so it's been about 13 or 14 years now that I've been doing this stuff.
Great, awesome. And right now, what's your favorite?
Kind
What's
of.
your favorite type of training right now? What do you do right now?
I lost you there. My favorite type of what?
Training.
Oh,
What do
my
you
favorite
train
type
right
of
now?
training. I'm a big fan of movement training and trying to discover new ways to move, creative ways to move, but also kind of respecting one's body. So doing movement without injury and doing movement um, with like a long term kind of perspective versus just like moving just to move, which is fun too. But I also like to move to be a better mover and to be able to express myself better or to be able to play with my daughter better. So I'm really into a lot of the natural movement kind of trainings and the different philosophies around movement training. Um, I would say that it's something that I'm always struggling with because my mobility is always an issue because I have of years of sports and then also many years of weight training and doing weight training incorrectly because I wasn't exposed to all the flexibility and mobility disciplines that I know now that I'm a little stiffer than I would like to be, but it's always good to find my where it's challenging for me. So I'm very into that, and then I'm also if you follow my feed, you know I'm a big proponent of kettlebell training. So I love kettlebells and all the cool things that you can do with kettlebells and how kettlebells are also very they're very easy for a beginner, so someone doesn't have to have a lot of experience doing weight training or Olympic lifts or, doesn't have to be an athlete, but the kettlebell there's a lot of entry points for a lot of new people, which is really good for the work that we do with Revolutionary Fitness. But I just find it exciting to see someone who's not a mover, who doesn't exercise much, and, after a few sessions of working with the kettlebell, their body being transformed, their mind being transformed is very exciting to see such quick growth. And then the training I'm very specifically into right now is I'm finally getting back into Olympic barbell lifts. So doing barbell training with doing the snatches, the clean and jerks, all those kind of movements. Getting back into those. Yeah. And running. I finally started running again.
That's good.
Yeah.
Is it hard to run now when it's winter time, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little rough in the winter, but the cool thing about running is that once you start moving, if you have the right gear on, you warm up pretty quickly. So what would be, a ugly New York City winter actually is a little bit more enjoyable because you're moving and you're sweating, so you warm up pretty quickly. I'm not opposed to I'm not opposed to treadmill training. I know some people don't like running on treadmills because of getting bored, and also too there's the mechanics of it. There's the belt moving is an unnatural kind of thing for your gait. So if you only do treadmill running, that could be a little problematic. But I do mix in treadmill training because I do like the fact that you can control the environment, right? There's no change on the surface level. There's no weird hazards to avoid. You can control the speed. You can control, your heart rate. You can monitor your heart rate. So if you're doing very specific kind of training, which I'm doing right now, very specific cardiovascular training, then the treadmill is a very helpful tool if you use it correctly. So I do a mix of that, a treadmill and then outdoor training, and getting back to my marathon running shape.
That's good.
Yeah.
Going back to your basics.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
I had a big injury when I was in my early 20s, and I was doing a 10-kilometer run, and at the time I was very neglectful of flexibility and mobility training. I just kind of did the basic, stretches that everyone was taught in gym class, which wasn't really enough. And, a lot of people, the way we think about stretching and flexibility is just, I just got to do it so I don't hurt myself, versus, how in Revolutionary Fitness, we teach this 50-50 split. However much you work you do, you got to do 50% more restoration, So I didn't have that view. And then I was running and I was having a pain in the side of my hip. And being a young athlete, I just said, okay, I'm just going to run through it. I'm just going to let my muscles get warm and run through it. And probably around like 6 kilometers in, the pain was really sharp pain now, all throughout the back of my hip and my leg. And by the time, and I've completed the 10 kilometers, but by the time I got to the end of the 10 kilometers, I basically had to fall to the floor. And I was crippled. I had to limp home, and I soaked in a bath for a few hours. And then I nursed. I didn't get any physical therapy because I didn't have any health insurance at the time. But I, now I know the injury that I caused myself, but that injury stuck with me for a long time. I mean, it still bothers me to some degree. So this is the first time me getting back into endurance running in about a decade. And I'm doing it right this time. I'm doing all the mobility the flexibility. I'm doing all the restorative strength movements to make sure my hips and knees stay healthy.
That's good that you
Yeah,
that you're listening to your body now. And it's
exactly.
very common that people right now just do training for because it's like a must to do, to post on Instagram, or to be healthy is to train, but sometimes the training form can be unhealthy. So if you could describe training to a person, what should training do for you?
Yeah, I think, everyone has very specific needs, based off of their lifestyle, based off of their daily movements, what they're doing, what they're not doing. People have different histories. Some people did sports in the back. Some in the past, some people were exposed to different types of weight training systems, some not. And so training, really is about catering the experience that the person's having with their body, the movement experience, to their particular needs, and if they're dealing with any kind of imbalances, if they're stronger in one place than another, you can adjust the training session or the group class based off of the needs. Also, the big part of training is, I think, keeping it exciting and keeping people happy and making sure people are enjoying themselves, because sometimes with physical culture, it's all about no pain, no gain. It's a lot of machismo and all these kind of ideas of like inflicting pain on yourself and working hard. And that's, there's a place for like working hard and challenging your limits, but also at the end of the day, you want to have fun and you want to enjoy it. You want to have fun with the people that you might be working out with. So training is creating that whole experience. And then, I think sometimes on social media, some of that gets lost. Sometimes it's like, oh, I just want to get a sweat going and get a muscle pump so that I could take this cool picture for Instagram. And a lot of that is staged, and it's not real. And so then people start seeing and they think, oh, this is what it has to look like, when it can look so many different ways.
And that can also bring some more stress to other people, like, oh, I don't look like that, or I don't have time to go training, and that can build up some more stress. So what can people do instead of stressing, just looking at the Instagram posts?
Yeah, like the posts on, that you see on your Instagram feed or on social media should, they should inspire you for sure, but you should, put it into the context of what you're going through personally and what you're capable of doing. So not turning that inspiration into guilt. But I also think is the people who are posting the things that they're saying and how they're saying it, like, oh, you need to be working out every day. You need to find time. You're being lazy if you're not doing what I'm doing. So I think it's a little bit on both ends, understanding that the motivation is good, but not to make you feel guilty. And then those who are trying to provide motivation, really be motivating and not judgmental. One of our friends from an organization we used to work with, Abby Clark, um, or Abby, actually, she's going by her maiden name now. But Abby was put up a really good post about, she hadn't worked out in the past 2 or 3 months, and that she was apologizing to all of her friends and her students,
Mhm.
saying, when she was in her early 20s and she didn't have any kids and life was a little bit easier, that it was easy for her to judge people and tell them they need to stop making excuses, they need to go exercise, blah, blah, blah. But now as a working mother, she realized that there's so many different struggles, and, we're all just trying to be our best and do our best, and we have to be gentle with ourselves and not judgmental. And sometimes social media can cause people to have anxiety and stress, and that shouldn't be the case when it comes to it, trying to motivate people.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. That
Yeah.
and you talked earlier about the natural movement that you do, and the kettlebell training that you do, and if you can describe natural movement training Why should people do that, or or bring it to their training schedule or program? Why?
So, I mean, I think the easiest way I like to think about it is that if we think about a child or a little baby when they're born and the different phases of development that they have to go through in the first year or two to learn how to crawl and to roll and to, then stand and run and climb. If we think about all the things that were prerequisites, what was needed before I could crawl? I had to be able to roll. What was needed before I could climb? I had to be able to, hold my weight upright in a prone position. And we think about the different developments of kids. It's also the same with us. And many instances too, we have to get back to a lot of that early development because we've lost it due to lifestyle, due to sitting too much in chairs, using a lot of automated devices to replace our movement, elevators and escalators. And, they even have those platforms that move in the airport so you don't have to walk. And then, of course, the shoes that we're wearing and the clothing that we wear can be restrictive of our movement. So a lot of us have lost the ability to move and to move and with freedom. And so we have to kind of get back to some of these early development patterns. And so the natural movement training is doing a lot of that, getting back to the crawling and the rolling and being on the ground and running, without competitiveness, just running to have fun, exploring your environment. That's a lot of what we do. And then we bring in the tools, kettlebells, Bulgarian bags, maces, sandbags, dumbbells. We bring these tools in not because of the tool, but to enhance the experience with the movement. So, if I'm learning how to lift things up and off the floor, it doesn't really matter what object I'm lifting. It shouldn't matter. I'm just lifting a weight. My body just knows, okay, you're lifting a weight and the weight is, on this side more than this side or whatever. And so, learning the mechanics of lifting, and then you get to something explosive like a clean, where you're starting to attach some specific skill to it. But this way, this kind of training, people connect with it on a very instinctual level, because this is something we've done, since the dawn of time, learning how to move and how to explore our environments. That's really the point of it all. And so we can instinctually relate to this type of training. And what we find with our students and in the revolutionary fitness classes, that people enjoy the experience, whether they know why they're crawling or not. They know that something about this feels good and human, and it feels like I can connect to this, and that is going to make someone do more of it and bring it more into their lifestyle, so that it's not just about the one workout, that I do 2 or 3 times a week in the gym, but rather, how do I move on a daily basis? How do I sit? How do I interact with my friends? When I'm lifting bags, am I doing it with more important than how much you can deadlift? If you can deadlift 500 pounds, is great, but can you pull yourself over a cliff if you had to? Is by far, I think, a more important question for humans.
So all the training, all the natural movement, or even when you're using tools, should be a reflection of your everyday life.
That's right. They should support your everyday life. Your training should, if we're saying functional training, it should support what your functions are. And so what are your functions as a human? What are your functions as a parent? What are your functions as a friend, and thinking about those daily functions and how your training supports those functions. Now, that's not to say that someone can't start doing movement explorations that are not that functional because they're fun. Like, for instance, being able to, let me think of an example, being able to bench press really heavy weight. It's not the most functional movement. There's more functional pushing movements that we can learn, but it's fun, and people like to do it, and people like to see how much weight they can push. And there's nothing against that. Is about, okay, did you earn the ability to do that fun movement exploration with that weight? most people don't earn that ability. One of our trainers from Minnesota, he talks a lot about that. His brand is called Earn Strength. And there's a play on his name, but what he's also trying to say is that you want to learn the basics, you want to get really good at the fundamentals, that your movement becomes strong, so then you can start exploring the use of weights, the fun kind of movements that you never really have need for, but you just want to see if you can do it. Like handstand walks, is that really the most functional movement in the world? No, but if I can walk, a soccer field on my hands, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. You build confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And another question here. So the session and this live interview is called Meet the People's Trainer. So we are many different people's trainer around the world now, and I would like to know what is a people's trainer for you, and why should we have more people's trainer around the world?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, obviously, I'm one of the founders of Revolutionary Fitness, and we created the term people trainer. And so for me, obviously, it has a lot of meaning because I've been there since the beginning. But the reason we obviously that we, or maybe not obviously, maybe I should say why. So one of us came out of the health and fitness industry where you have personal trainers and you have coaches and all these different titles. So we wanted to show that we were representative of that community. We are part of the health and fitness community, but we go a step beyond when it comes to understanding the different realities for different people around the world. And not everyone's social and economic realities are the same, and influence on the physical culture of the different parts of the world that we live in. So different people have higher access, more access to different layers of physical culture or nutrition and things like this. And there's many communities, the majority of people throughout the world don't have regular access, or at least what we call physical culture competency, right? So their education on how to move their body and how to eat and how to treat their bodies well, they're not given it in many of the schooling and the public school systems and things like this that they grew up in. And then the communities that a lot of us grow up in, we don't have access to, funding parks and playgrounds. There's just a lot of criminalization and, kind of our people being held in their place. And so we wanted to say, okay, we're going to be trainers, but we're going to for the people. And we're going to really think about creatively how we can serve the people, service the people. So not just thinking about, oh, how many clients can I get? What kind of influence can I have to build up my brand and all this kind of, there's that. Of course, you want to build a business that has sustainability and you want to make enough money to continue to do the work. At the end of the day, whose lives are you changing? And are they the lives of people who need it the most? If you're only servicing people who have means and who have a lot of money, then you're still perpetuating the same old broken systems. And so the people's trainer is really this idea of creating fitness professionals who are very well educated trainers. I would say we're some of the top trainers coming out of our education programming, because we put so much effort and so much of ourselves into the programming, and we do it for monetary gain, but we do it more for the love of our communities. And so they get all this great education, and then we figure out strategically, hey, how can you personally function to service communities that are in need? So we do a lot of business development focused on like, okay, what percentage of your business will be focused on working in underserved communities? What populations are you going to be working with, and all of that. I'd say the last thing that I would say the people's trainer is, to me, is very diverse group. So people from all walks of life. Is really important to us that we represent the communities that we're servicing, and we service so many different types of communities now. And so we have all different type of people who come into our ranks, and it's so exciting, you know, versus a lot of other health and fitness organizations where the people who are being recruited to the organization are just like cookie cutter images of those who are at top, and they're just trying to duplicate, you know, themselves. um, and for us, it's no, it's, you know, people of all different races, genders, gender nonconforming, different sexual orientations, different religious backgrounds, you know, people from different countries who speak the different languages. And as we grow, we see that we have more and more diverse communities, and it's so exciting to us. And you know, I just say the reason why it's important to, for your final question, of getting more people's trainers and getting more people into the revolutionary fitness community, because many times those who want to do the work to service the community aren't given the platform to do it, and they're struggling, right? They're struggling to provide a free yoga class, or they're struggling how to make money and still do the work that they love, or they're struggling because they're a person of color or they're queer and they're not accepted into the larger health and fitness community that they're trying to belong to. So we want to create a network that is that support, that is representative of all those diverse, complex identities. And there's a place for you here. And together we can grow, versus trying to force ourselves to try to belong to these communities that really don't want us, who have been kind of pushed. And that's what we've been doing with Revolutionary Fitness. So the more trainers and fitness ambassadors and fitness enthusiasts that we have that go through our education, the more we can spread our mission and service more communities throughout the world.
Because you, even where you are or at in the world, you can see the same struggle, that it's not everybody that can be working as a trainer or able to have a personal trainer. It's the same struggle, and it's so worldwide that people's trainer can be all around the world here.
That's right. I mean, we're talking, you're from Sweden and I'm from New York City, and we you know, we do different work, but a lot of our work is very similar.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the beauty of it. When I started to have in touch with you, and I started to learn more, it's like I had a broader view of it, and start to work for this community here in Malmö, Sweden. And so yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I have
for sure.
two more questions here before we end up the interview. Besides being a people's trainer, who is Shawn? What do you do for in the other life of a trainer?
Yeah, so when I'm not doing fitness stuff, so I'm definitely, you know, I guess my primary role obviously is being a father and a partner. So I'm a family man for sure. You know, even when my week gets craziest, I would say the most important thing that I have to get in the week is time with my partner Jenny and with my daughter Kaya. So that's a big part of my life. And so, you know, like today we were looking around trying to buy a Christmas tree, and you know, hanging out in the community gardens, and we went to the farmers market and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, that takes up a lot of my life for sure, and that's a very exciting phase of my life. That, you know, I have a 3.5-year-old kid. She's awesome, and me and her mother Jen have an amazing time with her. So that's that, and then also too, I you know, I'm a big sci-fi guy, so I love watching sci-fi movies and reading sci-fi books and playing video games and sci-fi related video games, some sports games as well. But I love that kind of stuff. I'm a big gamer when I have the chance to be. Um, and then a writer. You know, I don't do as much as I used to, but that was kind of my first love and passion, was writing. So, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to carve it into my lifestyle again. It's like, all right, I want to get back to my martial arts training. I got to be a good dad and partner. I got to do all this other stuff. Where do I fit it in? But hopefully, you know, I can start writing again a lot more soon, and that'd be very exciting for me. But I think that kind of rounds it up.
Yeah, that's a good overview of who Shawn is.
Yeah.
And the last question here is, what is your vision and goals as a people's trainer
As a
in the
people's
future?
trainer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so primarily my role now with the organization, I'm one of the worker owners, our Harlem affiliate, um, up in East Harlem on 116th and Park Avenue. So I do, a lot of stuff related to that. So we're always trying to think of how to expand our services, how to better service Harlem and the Bronx, the communities that we service primarily through that affiliate. So we want to see that grow, and we're always thinking of make that happen. But then my primary role with the organization, Revolutionary Fitness as a whole, is being the chief instructor for our academy. And so what I would, my 5-year vision is obviously that we're recruiting more exciting, folks into our community and working in more diverse communities throughout the world, and I'm able to travel to those places. It's always great to be able to travel to different parts of the world and meet people, and like Oscar was saying, find out about the experience of their folks in their communities when it comes to health and fitness, making the connections, finding the distinctions. That's always very exciting. So more expansion work is definitely something I want to be able to do in the next 5 years. And then developing more curriculum. So we're always thinking about, all right, what applications do we have and what training have we been through, and how can we write curriculum that is has a revolutionary fitness analysis and perspective, the fitness justice analysis, and we can create curriculum and make it more affordable and make it more relatable for the communities that we're working in. A lot of times when people go through a certification, they don't connect with the certifying organization. They don't connect with the language of the certifying organization, or the way that people phrase things. Um, we just did a cool episode on RedFit Radio with Williams from Boston, one of our trainers, who talked about their experience going through kettlebell certification, and how just like the references that the instructor was saying were culturally insensitive and slightly racist, and we always have to deal with that kind of stuff. So we were like, all right, Revolutionary Fitness, let's create our own curriculum. Let's start delivering this education with our voice, and do it within our communities. So we want to write more and more curriculum. So I'm always brainstorming with Oscar and the other master trainers on how we can develop more curriculum and get more services out to people. So yeah, so more expansion and more curriculum writing, and trying to get in more places throughout the world.
Yeah. Looking forward to all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that
Cool,
was
man.
all of my questions. Do you want to add something?
No, I just want to, we put up an announcement about it this past week, but I just wanted to congratulate you again for getting promoted to marketing director for Revolutionary Fitness. You've been with us for a few years now. I sent you the
Yeah.
message of that first email you sent. We always tell this story how I was like, who's this random guy, messaging me from Sweden, and then not to say that this is the approved do it, but Oscar like created RedFit Sweden without even telling us, and we were like, what is this? And it had the same mission and everything, and we were like, oh, we got to pay attention to this guy. So you've put in a lot of hard work over the years, and we love you, and we're so excited to have you in a leadership role, working with our international community, and excited to see all the stuff that you produce. So congratulations again to you.
Thank you, brother. Always glad to be in this organization and having you as a family. And yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, man. All right. So I'll get back to. I got to get back to the family. It was
Yeah,
great
do
speaking
that.
to you.
Thank you. And yes, so next week
Right,
we're
brother.
gonna bye. So next week we're gonna introduce a new people's trainer. So just find out more during the week and on Instagram who is going to be the next people's trainer you're gonna meet. Yeah. See you next week then. Same time, same day.
All right,
Bye.
brother. Peace.